So I'm Brian Morrissey. I had a lot of changes during the pandemic, as I'm sure you had. I mean, when it started, I was living in Brooklyn. I was the president and editor-in-chief of Digiday Media, which owned Digiday, which focused on media and marketing, Glossy, which is about fashion and beauty, and then Modern Retail, which is about retail. And then within 6 months, I was leaving Digiday after a decade, and I was living in Miami. So a lot of changes. Never thought it would happen. So we're going to have a conversation here with Zach and Mélanie about all of these changes that have been taking place. So it's going to be from a media angle, but I also want to get their viewpoint on these massive societal changes that have been going on in the pandemic and what sticks around and what doesn't stick around, because I think that's what we're all wondering across all kinds of areas of our economy and society. But to start off, just want a quick introduction. Zach, you are the CEO of Dwell. You had impeccable timing. You joined on February 4th, at least that's when the announcement went out.
Exactly.
2020. How weird was that?
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't met most of my team because we're distributed across New York, LA, and San Francisco. And so, lockdown happened 6 weeks after I joined, and I'm having dinner with some of them tonight, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay. You did not have that, right? But you, Mélanie, you are in charge of the Spruce Home, also pets, I believe.
Yes, pets and crafts.
And then My Domain, too.
Correct.
And your background is on the journalism side, but now you sort of have one foot in both camps. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually started my career on Wall Street before sort of pivoting into content creation and production.
Oh, wow. Interesting move.
Yeah.
From Wall Street to media.
Yeah. A slightly less soul-sucking career path.
Yeah. Slightly less lucrative, though. So explain a little bit about, first of all, the Spruce, but also Dotdash. I think a lot of people might not be familiar with Dotdash, and it's actually one of the true media success stories around. They're going to do $200 million in revenue and $50 million in profits, which is really good for a media company.
Yeah. So collectively, Dotdash websites reach over 100 million users each month, and we're actually the next generation of what was once About.com. So we have this 20-year-old library of amazing content that was rebranded into sub-verticals. I run the home group, but we also have a health site called Very Well, a finance site called The Balance. We have food sites, some of which are more recognizable because we've acquired a few brands like Simply Recipes and Serious Eats. And then there's beauty and style. We have Birdie Beauty and Brides. And then there's the Spruce and My Domain.
Okay. We're going to get to the businesses, but I just want to start off, Zach. Give me something that has changed during the pandemic related to the home space that is going to stay around. And then I'm going to ask you for something that's going to not stay around.
Yeah, I think we were headed in this direction, but COVID advanced us by a decade for sure. On Dwell, for example, searches for ADUs, which are common on the West Coast, accessory dwelling units that you can put in your backyard to add an extra bedroom or flexible space. Prefab, container homes, queries for these skyrocketed 200 or 300%. And accordingly, we shifted our editorial strategy to address how people can add space to their home affordably and quickly. I think we were headed in that direction anyway, and obviously COVID has normalized working from home, really shattered the taboos that you will be less effective if you're working from home. And so I think we're needing more from our homes, especially separation from our living space, and all of these different housing and building strategies that are emerging that allow property owners to maximize the square footage in their home. I think that's sticking around for sure.
Okay, so that means suburbs are winners and cities are losers?
No, not at all. I mean, I think one thing that I also am very passionate about, and believe firmly, and I think the data is already beginning to bear this out, is that cities are definitely going to come back. I think, yes, a lot of people were introduced to some of the pleasures of the suburbs and exurbs, but I don't think anything really surpasses the livability of a culturally diverse city. And I think once people have the choice to return to the office, I think people are going to seek putting their homes closer to urban office centers.
Yeah. Okay. Something that's good, that's going to change and stay changed.
Sure. I agree with about 72.3% of what you just said, Zach. So I agree that simply by way of spending so much time at home, everyone has been forced to sort of reevaluate their space, to think more about home as not just a place you exist, but a source of wellness and comfort and serenity. I don't think that's going away. I think that if and when we do return to work in offices, that most organizations will be in a hybrid sort of scenario. I think that a lot of people won't be returning to cities. I think the cloffice, which is a closet turned office, is here to stay. I don't know if you know about
That's new for me. I don't know.
cloffices.
Is that a technical term?
It is. And I think something that I hope will go is the elbow tap as acceptable form of greeting.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Cloffice. I mean, I would move from a city if I needed a cloffice.
People did amazing things transforming their closets into
Yeah.
offices in the last 18 months.
That would cause me to move to the suburbs. Tell me something that has changed in the space that eventually it's going to go back to the way it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I would have answered that with what I said previously about cities ultimately.
But I jumped on that one.
It's not going to go back the way it was. Why don't you help me out?
Masks. Maybe they'll go back.
Yeah.
We won't have to use
But
them.
you had said one before, actually, in addition to that, which was the working from the office. Like, you do eventually believe that, we're in this weird period of time where I feel like it's a tug of war, and there's obviously a shortage of people, and like the leverage has shifted a little bit more. But you're still a believer that people are going to come back to the cities in order to work.
I don't think I think it's going to be messy. I don't think there's going to be a sort of slingshot moment back in time where we're all butts are in seats 5 days a week. I think that's unlikely. But I do think that we are going to see offices emerge as really important parts of the sort of creative and business stack. And maybe what we'll start seeing is a diversifying of which roles have to be in person, and a lot more flexibility to allow some roles to be remote, which could assist with just the fundamental cost structure of running a media business in particular.
Yeah. Offices are very expensive.
Yeah.
We were spending like $50,000 a month in rent, so
And then
then zero.
I would say something I hope changes, and this is not so much a media thing, but a home building thing, is, supply chain issues and the shortage of labor that's causing a backlog in the ability for a lot of families to do work on their homes and actually get the stuff they need to do those things. I would hope that dissipates in the next 2 to 3 years.
So let's stick with that, because that's, I think, one of the accelerations that it's still unclear where it nets out. And I think it matters as far as the home, when the home doubles as an office. What are you seeing? I mean, because like the structure of Dotdash businesses is they're intent-based, which means that a lot of people come to their sites in order to accomplish something. It's very good for the business model. If someone types in bedside lamps or something like that, there's a good chance that they're in the market for a bedside lamp.
Right.
Could just be something they're passionate about. But is there anything in the data that you're seeing that can kind of point in the direction that of where this work from home situation goes? Like, I mean, are people permanently setting up what was the cloffice?
Cloffice?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't.
That's not a long-term solution if you do have a cloffice.
I can't speak to a specific data point on that front, but I can tell you that our intent-driven model of building audiences is definitely not going anywhere. It's, a model that has worked for us and continues to work for us really well. And the way that I frame that for people is that we look at the internet and how people use the internet in sort of three different buckets. You have the people who, you have the people seeking nice to know stuff, and that's, they want information about their friends and family, and that's where you go to your Facebook, your Snapchat, your Twitter, your social feeds. Then you've got the people who want to know something, and that's people seeking, news, entertainment, celebrity gossip, sports information. And then you've got your third bucket, which is the bucket that we're most interested in, which is people who need to know something in a specific moment of their life. And in the home space, that translates into, I need to paint my kid's room. I need to unfreeze my pipes. I need to unclog my toilet. I need to get that mustard stain out of my white dress. And people never stop needing that information. So we've definitely seen, if anything, a steady increase in our intent-driven audience.
Yeah. Zach, you want to talk about what sort of you're seeing in this, particularly with regard to, because I always think the work from home debate is kind of like, it's not really a debate. It's like people, it's not that they don't want to go to the office. They just want to have a life and like have work be part of that life and not have work and have their life be part of work. And I think that's slightly different, but sometimes people miss that. How is Dwell sort of focused on this? Because I feel like we're in this period of transition where we rethink what the home is all about.
So you don't mean as a company, you just mean what are we observing, in our audience? Yeah, well, I would piggyback on what Mélanie just said. What we, last year during the height of the pandemic, what we discovered is that, for the first time for a lot of people, they had to think about their homes seriously because they were needing a lot more from it. And so, last year we launched for the first time, a service-oriented vertical called Dwell Guides, where we're attempting to provide, pretty conventional know-how to help people get the most out of their home, which we had traditionally solved by just providing inspiration. But you can only get so much mileage out of that, and we need to, sort of bridge that gap by giving people precise guides and instructions for how to improve the quality of their living situation through really practical solutions.
Yeah. So one of the other, just to stick with you for a minute, I think one of the other accelerations that we've seen is the conversation around sustainability in all facets. I think we've moved from just being obsessed with growth and stuff like this to we got a really difficult reminder that we need resilience and we need sustainability in everything that we do in our home and how we organize our cities, our businesses even. And the other one is inequality. There is a major inequality problem across our society, and it's really focused, I think, squarely in housing and in shelter. So can you talk about how you're focused on it as well?
Yeah, when I joined Dwell last year, I thought about who our audience should be, assuming that that our addressable market could grow. And something that's been concerning me is just the changing demographics of home ownership. 30 years ago, something like 50% of all new housing constructed in the U.S. Was first-time buyer housing, and now that number is down to 7%. So as a shelter publication that is fundamentally, our reason for existence is to help people improve their homes for better living. Who is our audience if fewer and fewer people actually have access to a home, especially in cities, which are places I care very deeply about and I want to see them thrive. What we've found as a company is that we need to start providing coverage of policies that actually enable more affordable housing across, well, not just affordable, but also attainable housing across all price points. We think that this is a fundamental for our growth as a company to promote attainable housing.
Yeah. So you can't just focus on the people on the other side of the divide.
Well, because that divide's shrinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just speak to what I've been seeing as the democratization of interior design, in particular through TikTok, honestly. I think that what TikTok has done, unlike any other social platform before it, is really given individual creators who do not have a traditional design, background or degree or even celebrity clientele. And these creators are gaining so much traction for making interior design rules and tips and advice incredibly digestible and accessible to the masses. And what we've seen running our TikTok in particular, we're actually the biggest home publisher on TikTok right now with about 500,000 followers, is that the response from commenters and viewers is incredibly positive, and it would suggest that previously interior design was so overwhelming to them. But through TikTok and short form video in particular, they've gotten the tools to describe their personal style. They have access to figuring out what their personal individual taste is. The hashtag Art Deco style has 50 million views. The hashtag mid-century modern has 100 million views. And for a lot of people, this is the first time that they're sort of learning what these things mean, which I think is a really, really wonderful thing for the industry.
It's interesting you say that, because I think one of the big shifts is from institutions to individuals. And brands typically are an institution of sorts, right? And now individuals are. So isn't that somewhat of a threat? I mean, in some ways, like you used to go to established publications for inspiration. Now you open up Instagram, you follow hashtags, you go on TikTok.
I don't think it's threatening at all. I think that traditional shelter magazines, people were consuming them as spectators, and now people are consuming interior design content and feeling as if they can be participants. And I think that's a really positive thing for the industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's market making. I think the fractalization of home content across social media has just made more consumers of shelter media, and it's provided creation tools that allow people to tell their stories, which makes our lives easier, because it's so much easier for us to source those great stories and to work with those creators to really produce those stories out and tell them to a larger audience.
I would think the more people who are interested in interior design and, home in general, it's a win for everyone in this room.
Okay, so expanding the actual audience that consumes this kind of content. So let's talk about the business and building sustainable businesses. Zach, it's now been like 18 months, so you must have it all sort of figured out at this point. Dwell, 20 years old. Very print-centric. I don't know if that's a word, but right? What attracted you to the job? I mean, you were part of the founding team of Vimeo. I checked out Cabin Porn. So what attracted you to it, and what do you think? Where are you taking Dwell as far as the business goes?
Yeah, look, I joined Dwell because it's an amazing brand that has a loyal audience that's really satisfied with the products that Dwell puts out there, and it creates for me as an entrepreneur a platform for me to build more businesses in the home space, which is something I'm passionate about. Cabin Porn was a sort of weekend hobby where I published pictures of cabins I loved, and it spun out of control and became a thing I had to attend to. But through that, I learned a lot about the shelter space. I learned, that the reason why cabins were popular is because people want an attainable luxury, and housing is just so red hot and so inexpensive and perceived as so unattainable. That people are really having to stretch towards vans and cabins in the hinterland to have some semblance of a good lifestyle, and I want to play a role in correcting that. I love vans and cabins, but I want cities to be thriving and attainable as well. So I joined Dwell to participate in business building for that movement. The actual business, I joined 18 months ago, and our primary sources of revenue were our print product. And that's challenging in the sense that I believe that you have to ask your users to use your product. There has to be a cadence in which internally and externally people are expected to use the product that you make. And so when you're only publishing 6 issues a year, that cadence seeps into the culture of the organization. And that doesn't really mesh with the reality today where people are consuming home content continuously through social media. And so for me to build a business in this space that can compete with social media, I needed to reorient our culture to be thinking about how to produce continuously.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge because that goes against our DNA of producing really thoughtful, well-executed pieces. And
so it's like a metabolism.
Yeah.
But the future of the company is the membership program?
The future of our company is a brand that I hope will have a variety of products and services that will help people make good decisions about bringing design into their lives and homes. Right now, we have a very influential, website, social media, and magazine that go a long way to inspiring people to change the way that they live. The next step is, just going up that stack and figuring out what other aspects of their lives can the Dwell brand help them make great decisions.
Right. So, Mélanie, talk a little bit. Advertising actually held up really well over the pandemic after an early drop off a cliff, but I think it really did because people had a lot of money. They weren't spending it going out, so I assume they spent it on things around their house. So that was probably pretty good for you guys, right?
Yeah, no, we've done quite well. And our business model since inception has always been a threefold mantra that I think you're familiar with already, but maybe the audience isn't. We publish the best content on the fastest sites with the most respectful ad experience. That will always be our business model because it has proven to work so well for us. And really what that's about is just, giving users the best answer to their questions.
But I think, you guys have also been sort of a leader in the shift to commerce. The dividing line between a media company and an e-commerce company they're blurring, right? And
Definitely.
from both directions. And so you're building your own products, or you're doing licensing deals. At the very
Yes,
least.
we do affiliate and I think Dotdash overall, transactional revenue probably accounts for about 35 to 40% of what we're doing right now, and also advertising. And yes, I think we've taken the move into launching the Spruce branded products because that is the ultimate manifestation of trust in a brand. So I think it's an extension of our focus on content quality and really always trying to engender trust with our readers. So we started with paint in 2019, and that was a very deliberate choice because we knew that our readers were always looking for a fast way to freshen up their space, and paint is the easiest way to do that. And what we did with our paint collection is sort of remove the decision paralysis from the process of buying paint. So it's a collection of 32 colors that were specifically curated by our editors, and it's available online. And we're actually expanding the collection with 20 new colors in the next month. But from paint, we launched our waterless pet wash a few months later in the pet space. And then we launched storage and organization with one of the biggest manufacturers out there. And that line is available in Lowe's stores nationwide. We did rugs earlier this year. And up next will be soft goods.
Okay. Want to get to questions, but first, I know you're not going to announce your commerce initiative, but how are you thinking about, as you develop the direct relationship with your audience, it opens up a lot of opportunities, particularly driving direct transactions. How are you thinking about that? Or are you not thinking about it?
Like a lot of magazines, we've been sort of intermediated from our customers. Subscription circulation departments are usually in the back room or not in the same building often.
Right.
So, orienting Dwell to have a direct relationship with its customer, for our customer to be paying us directly for the value we create is basically how I'm prioritizing the businesses that Dwell gets in. So in the last year, 2 years ago, we didn't even have a digital subscription business. As of 6 months ago, it was the largest revenue channel for our company, and that was just the result of prioritizing building a relationship directly with our consumer. So you're going to see Dwell be more direct with offering products and services with its readers.
Okay, we'll have to leave it at that then. Want to open up to questions. I think there are a few microphones going around. What's that? Yes.
This will probably sound circuitous, but I promise there's a point. I'm a bit of a professional hybrid. I run a public relations firm principally, but I'm also a contributing editor at Aspire Design and Home magazine, which kind of gives me a competitive advantage because I see the worst pitches ever from some people. But I'm curious what your relationship or what you see the relationship is with public relations firms and media companies.
Yeah.
Oof, that's a good one. Zach, first whack.
I honestly don't have a great answer because at Dwell we still have an independent editorial team, and so as the CEO, I'm setting strategies about our roadmap and audience building, but our editorial team has the independence to receive those pitches and prioritize them. So unfortunately, I don't have any firsthand experience with managing that inbound.
Yeah, I mean, my editors receive, I think, hundreds and hundreds of pitches a week, and I would have to ask them directly what nowadays is making things stand out from the pack. But I think the relationship is still very important to the functioning of a modern editorial team. I think a good pitch is maybe rare, but certainly key to crafting some important stories out there, and that'll never change. I think PR has its place.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'll say, is that unfortunately, a lot of publications have to depend on pickup, photography. Dwell magazine is still shot, with photography that we commission, but we have a pretty onerous budget of content to publish every day, so we're depending on our subjects often to provide media that's really compelling. So obviously, any third party that pitches us, we're prioritizing by what we believe to be their ability to execute something that we think is consistent with our brand values.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes? Yes, I think there, wait. Zach, you're very pro-print, right?
Pardon?
You're going to be like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great answer. I mean, a great question. I hope I give a great answer. Dwell's rate base is currently about 275,000 copies, and our digital reach is about 30 million, so order of magnitude. So to the extent that you want Dwell Media to drive some sort of outcome for you, digital is probably going to deliver, but obviously we're still, print is still highly prestigious, and I think that has a separate but equal value as well.
Yeah. But it is kind of crazy if you think about it, that like when you join like 275,000, 30 million, but more revenue is in the product that reached 275,000.
No, well, that's the thing we've corrected. So as of last year, digital is now our largest revenue channel.
Okay.
And I was just going to add that I think, yes, print is still prestigious amongst a certain subset of people. However, digital products can be equally beautiful and amazing. We just actually launched My Domain's debut digital issue last week with Miranda Kerr on the cover, and it is really a beautiful digital product and experience and feels extremely premium and high-end, and I think that is the way forward. I think more and more publishers are going to be releasing monthly and quarterly digital issues that feel as special as a print magazine once did.
Okay.
I will say, though, because I do think this is exceptional in the print industry, our magazine is profitable. And even if it weren't profitable, I would continue to publish because I just can't beat the exposure of being at, the checkout lane of several thousand, stores nationwide. So, it's just a great brand moment to have with our readership.
I mean, it elevates the brand still tremendously. Yep. Yeah. It's their final one.
Hey, so Zach, you mentioned that the fractionalization of design is making it easier for you to source and extract those stories. So I'm just curious, what's standing out to you personally, and also Mélanie, what kinds of stories and work are standing out to you?
Well, personally, what's interesting me most is, in addition to us needing our homes to be places where we work and park our Pelotons, we have this, these other like cultural moments happening, or societal moments, where we have more adult children living at home, and more people are responsible for their aging parents. And for the first time in something like 80 years, we have a majority of households in America that are multi-generational. And I think that poses some really fascinating design challenges for how we retrofit homes to accommodate that, and what new homes should be if these trends continue.
I would say what interests me now are some of the topics we've been speaking about. So the blurring of the lines between publishers and brands and people who make products and publish content. You have, brands like The Sill and Parachute that publish products but are also content creators, and publishers who are doing products like we are. So the lines blurring is very interesting to me. I'm also very interested in the shift away from editors as the arbiters of good taste and style towards individual creators and algorithms, right? Like you're seeing on TikTok. What else am I interested in terms of a story perspective? The notion that trends come and go so quickly because information spreads so widely so quickly that it's almost as if they don't exist. And I actually think that's a beautiful thing, because ultimately what will matter is people figuring out what their personal style is.
Okay. I want to thank you, Zach and Mélanie. Appreciate it for the conversation.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.